For June 15th, 2016, the Water and Sewer Committee meeting for the Charter Township of Oxford. The roll is noted. I'm going to take some names. I know Connie Sims, and I know Dave
You want to do a sign-in sheet?
Brown.
No.
Brown. I'll just write them all down while we're here. And Drew.
Sandell, Sandahl.
Matt Carr, yep.
Two Rs?
2 T's, 2 R's. Yep.
Thank you very much. Curtis, Jack, and Jim Sharp, the engineer. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Could I add something to the agenda, please?
We have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Jim, you had a question?
We just had a meeting with Burton Katzman before this, and there's a couple of items in the sanitary sewer agreement that they'd like to have discussed.
I'll put those under C, other issues. Burton Katzman. Okay, as I amended the agenda, approval for the agenda was moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed. Approval of the water and sewer meeting minutes of April 14th, 2016.
If there are no corrections, I'll move to approve.
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion by Mr. Dunn, seconded by Curtis Wright. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Public comment on items not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move into 6A, unfinished business. Lake Villa Mobile Home Park Water Service Update. And I think this is pretty much Jim A1, design update.
Yeah, I don't know how much you want to get in to all the design aspects of it, but we got a plan here that's probably 95%. I'd like to sit down and go over some of those items with the county, maybe not at this meeting, but like a separate meeting in the very near future, just to finalize the connection points and so forth. We'll probably have the plans wrapped up here in a couple weeks, assuming that, you know, we kind of work with the WRC, probably want to get Ron involved, I would think. We just had meetings with Lake Villa last week, right?
Yes.
And so we're all good with the connections in that location. We'll talk about the well house a little bit, but that's basically where we stand right now.
Okay. Emergency connections, who put that on the agenda?
Again, I think all this ties together to that project. I met with Don Brantley from the village, and you know, we talked about having a couple of emergency connections to the village. It was determined that the best locations for that would be at Bay Point Drive, which is out here at Lakeville Road, at the entrance to the Lakes of Oxford, or Oxford Lakes, I guess it's called.
Yes.
That would be one location, and then we were going to do a secondary connection down here at Oakwood, which is a stub street that kind of goes into the middle school there.
Okay.
So we had also discussed up here at the cul-de-sac, up in the very corner of the property, but just for certain design purposes, we determined that that would probably not be a great location for it, so the two that we came up with are the desired locations. And again, we would just want to talk about that with the WRC office and then the funding of those, how that's going to be paid for.
I notified the village if that's going to go through, they're going to pay for it.
Okay, so we are to show it in the design and bid it accordingly?
I would probably approach them to see if they're willing to pay for it. I don't think that our, people in our water district, or on the water customers, ought to be paying for a hookup to the village. If they want the emergency connection, it's there. If they don't want it, they're going to have to run a line from the village limits out to here, and even out farther, so they can do whatever they want. What we did was give them an option to put it off for a few years, and if they do need water, we can turn the old water on. But it's gonna be up to them.
So do you-
I would not be in favor of, I don't mind paying, adding it to the design, but as far as doing the construction, I think that's all it's gonna be all that.
And I think that probably adding it to the design is not gonna hinder anything. It would just,
But it's
we would need a decision from the village prior to the construction actually taking place, so we could permit it and say that we're gonna have those two connection points, and then if the village decides that they do not wanna fund it, then we just tell the contractor, we'll just take them off the plans.
Would we offer the village to do it at the same time? It might save them some money. I mean, do the actual hook up to the village at the same time we do the rest of the lines?
Yeah, that was the intent, was to do it all at once. Yep, with our contractor.
Rather than leave a stub and
And
worry
then
about
you
it.
just have to work out an agreement with the village on how that reimbursement comes back if they chose to move forward with it.
Okay. Easement acquisitions.
Okay, well, as we know, originally this was designed to go all the way down Lakeville Road to the well house location. So we have those easements already prepared. We're now stopping the line short of that. We're stopping at the school property instead of going all the way down. So we are curious, should we approach Koenig and try to get the easement all the way down along the frontage of their property regardless? Because at some point there's probably going to be a water main that gets extended along there. So do we try to get that easement, or do we stop it just for what we need along, up to this point at the school?
Go ahead, Bill.
I would not worry about the easement. If they want water to go down there, it's going to be on their dime, it's going to be on their easement.
So I'm hearing stop it at this location.
That's one person's opinion.
Right.
That, we don't need the easement down there. If at some time this does develop, they can supply easements and put in a water main.
And then as far as the easements going through the school property, they're going to be cooperative with that. We just need to prepare them now that we have the final alignment completed. I'll work with my staff to get those completed and to the schools for the appropriate signatures there. We'll also need one from Lake Villa. We discussed that with them in our meeting last week, and they were cooperative with that. So,
Curtis, do you have any feelings about the Lakeville easement?
Well, my original thought was, if you look at the whole master plan of easement, is that something that we're looking at doing, this looping back to Drain Road? I mean, if not, then I think Bill's got the right idea. Let Koenig develop what they need to here when they get to do that, because if our loop's gonna go this way, we don't
Right.
need to go any farther east. Plus, we have to extend the water district.
So then we should give direction to Jim just to end our easement as to where we're at then.
What do you think?
That's what I think.
Yeah. so-
Okay.
Because if he wants to bring water down to the other end, he'll gladly give an easement.
And what's gonna be the issue with getting easements from Mr. Fredericks from State Street on?
Nothing, because I don't think there will be a problem, because we're getting it to the lake anyways. And it would have to enter the property before the lake and then after the lake come out.
Plus, there's no cost to him for the water main.
Well, to there isn't. But if he wants to go around all the way to around it, it would be a cost to him then.
On his property.
Yeah.
Jack, I would like to, sooner than later, meet with Mr. Fredericks and tell him about our new plan.
Right, it's been obviously in the paper and discussion with the schools, but I don't know that we've actually spoken with Mr. Fredericks since the design change has occurred.
We're still gonna put that valve in there, aren't we? There's gonna be hydrants and valves somewhere in there.
Well, but he wanted a stub left for his
Yeah.
future, and I mean, we can do it, and I believe that the plans show that. I'm a little hesitant just because, unless that lines up exactly with where his entrance wants to be. If he tells me where to put it, I'll put it there, but you just know how that is. You try
Oh,
to
yeah.
plan for the
Yeah.
future, and it ends up 50 feet away, and so then you've got a valve in the ground that you're gonna have to either remove, because you don't want excess, piping and valves in there.
Is it a big deal to have them, whenever they need it, to go ahead and tap it?
No, they could do a tapping sleeve, wherever they decide their entrance is.
But again, we kinda told them we'd put a stub there.
We did,
But we could approach them and say, tell us where.
exactly.
And then you have to live with it or pull it and tap later.
Right,
Well, we could talk to them about that when we meet with them. The easements
okay.
and where does he want the valve stub? Okay. Funding for this project. I know right now, we're authorized, the board has authorized a $1 million loan from the sewer. Oh. Yes, got it. $1 million for the, from the sewer, borrowing money from the sewer project. So we need another $985,350. What do we do? Do we approach the board with an additional loan? Do we draw all the money out of the equity fund from the county? Do we?
Good questions to be answered. In my mind, initially going forward, you can absorb that $1 million through your water fund now. Just a matter of how far you want to draw it down.
Okay.
We had cash balance in water of about 2.5 million at the beginning of May. So if you took $1 million out, you should be at 1.5 million.
So we would have to make a recommendation to the township board that this funding will include that $1 million loan from the sewer fund, and then we're gonna use the remaining funding from the capital that we have in equity.
Could we talk about the meeting you just had? We're talking about a lot of units for the Bernard Katzman. In order to get a building permit, they're gonna have to at least put 20 units of money up for the water, even for one unit.
Yeah, it's
We just
$200,000.
discussed that with them, and that is one of the items that came up. When they pull their building permits, and they're planning on pulling all 8 building permits at one time,
Ooh,
so therefore you are gonna get 113 units, water units, at $6,000 each. So you're looking at probably $600,000 worth of money there. They're gonna be depositing, between that and sewer, it's gonna be around $800,000 total going into the two accounts.
$6,075 times how many units?
I wanna say it was 113 RUs.
Are they considered 1 ROU units?
No, 0.06,
To be
0.6 per unit.
0.6, I'm sorry.
But my recollection of the
0.6.
plan is that that entire phase 1 is 113 RUs with that 0.6
Oh, with that
factor,
point.
everything factored in.
Yeah,
Because it's like
that's
270
Got it.
units, so I've already factored that in.
$686,000.
makes us a little healthier.
Yeah, so we would,
That makes that issue
Yeah.
a lot easier.
it makes that issue a lot easier. Okay,
But we,
And I would say that based on their discussion, that will be in the township funds before monies are needed to pay a contractor for this work. They
No.
said, they sound like they wanna get going in the next month or 2.
Now, that figure you gave, the school's going to be giving us 200,000 to 300,000, right? Did you
that's
do
in that, that's in this calc right here.
It is?
Right, there's the 2
For
times.
for the roadway paving, yes.
Plus, we have to look at what the bid price is coming back as well.
Exactly.
And then we're
Right.
basing on the 2 million.
so do we need to move forward right now and get a recommendation from this committee to use the fund balance at the township board?
What I would like to do is run more numbers to have a more solid recommendation to the board,
Okay,
where we're going.
Right.
See,
okay,
And I would say that the bid price is gonna be your biggest variable there. I think that the Burton Katzman will happen. I think that money will be there. So the bid price is the big determining factor, you know, is it come in, is it high, is it low, is it right on? So at that point, you would evaluate everything and make a
Well,
final.
we could alleviate some concerns with the township board on funding by letting them know that we're going to be getting an influx of $500,000 to $750,000.
Correct.
right.
My thought is to, look at our tabs for the year. What's our existing cash balance, our debt service revenues versus expense going out, and just running through the whole account to make sure we're solid on.
Okay,
on
well,
where we're headed.
In our meeting with the people from the mobile home park, they were put on notice that They're going to be paying debt reduction
Right.
on 800 units. It's going to be coming into our coffers.
Okay, so we'll have a meeting probably in a week or two to finalize the plan for bidding and stuff like that. At that time, we can at least get a little closer to our funding.
Yeah, like I said, put those numbers together, run them by the committee, Jim, and see where it goes.
All right. Number 5, well house abandonment there at Lake Villa Mobile Home Park. What is our pleasure?
Here's a, put a map in your packet there.
This was actually brought up in a meeting with the Lake Villa people by Mr. Dunn, wondering if it made any sense at all to keep the well house as a backup, just in case, or do we want to abandon the wells, abandon the well house, give the or potentially sell the property, basically give it up? Is it worth anything, or is it worth a backup, just in case? Because if we lose water somewhere in here, there's the whole mobile home park would be without water. So is it
The amount
good
of,
to keep that as
the
redundant?
amount of money it's gonna cost to keep that going is gonna be pretty high. So you've got one well that's already out of service that we can't use. You've got a second well that's limping along. So of the 4 wells, you've got 2.5 wells of serviceable wells right now. They're in fairly rough shape. The electronics, as far as the soft starts, are failing. And so that would have to be replaced if you're gonna keep it as a backup. I think the cost is something for the committee to do and look at, but in my opinion, I think that it's more of a liability to, that's my opinion.
Bill was asking about if we kept one well, took the largest, the best well, and put a control panel just outside it and not anything else. And
Only
looked
to
at the
be
cost,
used-
and
only
looked
to
at
be
the
used
cost
in
of doing
emergency.
that, what it costs to maintain it.
To leave one well,
Sample it.
you could leave one well, but I would,
And not the building,
Yeah.
not the generator, not all the other,
is
just,
a submersible.
We have to look at everything
You're gonna have
involved in
to leave, you have to leave the tank. You can't pump with it. You need some sort of a tank to pump into.
could be a VFD
I
on
don't,
that.
Well,
not like,
maybe we
Not
can
in
leave
that
the building.
not in that
situation.
capacity.
Maybe we could abandon the walls and leave the building.
Did we ever determine who owns that building? I mean,
You do?
the lot? We own the
Oh.
lot?
Yeah.
We own all the lots. They were all transferred to the township.
Well, I'd have to look into to leave one.
I mean,
Just,
Yeah.
Well,
just think
part of
about
the
it.
problem
and
with
if
the
it's-
pneumatic
what
tanks
the-
is they need to be replaced anyway, so now if you're looking at maintaining a pneumatic, keeping a pneumatic tank, would you,
They're already-
you'd have to put in another one, it could be smaller if that was the capacity that you're
You could
looking to
get by
do
with
with
a
it.
smaller tank at some sort if you really.
Could you
had
put a
to.
submersible in there?
The submersibles already exist, but where, I would have to look at which well. You'd have, let me take a look
Don't
at what's
spend a
there.
lot of time,
No, I'll just spend, no.
spend a little,
just
just
let
a
me look
little time on it.
I think just before we give it away, we rip all this stuff out of the ground, abandon it, and potentially, give these lots, again, not give, but sell the lots
Sell lots.
back to Lake Villa so that they can put more mobile homes on them. We just want to make sure that it wouldn't make any sense for us to have some sort of redundancy.
And I think he was talking about too, until the looping's complete for the township part of the
understand.
master plan, and then it would go away.
Right,
Let me
then,
take a look at it though.
Can one well service the whole park?
Well,
Temporarily.
it would, yeah, we'll see.
I have to look at which.
What if we look at the winter consumption, which is what it would, there'd be no sprinkling or anything that would go on if there were something like that. They could just use it for the domestic, so we'd have to look at what the winter consumption is and what well would be needed or how many would be needed in order to meet that demand. And take it from there.
You probably wouldn't need it for a very long time until you get whatever repaired on the water main. Let me take a look which would be needed.
Okay.
Let me take a look.
And will the state allow us to do
You're
that?
I
allowed to
think
have
it's still
backup
allowed,
wells, but
yeah.
you still have their
We're talking about
type
the isolation distance.
Well,
Are they gonna
see,
be, they're gonna be jumping down our throats.
you still have to have that.
Are we still gonna have?
for 2016, it was, wait, where is there money in for that?
We'd rather not spend that if we're looping the system.
Yeah, 2015 and 2016, we budgeted thousands of dollars for Lake Villa hydro tank replacement. Lake Villa, what, number 1,
Right.
replace
That
the
was
well?
if it didn't get interconnected with the township system, these were
Okay.
things that needed to be done.
So they won't happen until.
They won't
should never
have,
happen.
It won't happen at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't happen. But if you're looking at keeping a well, we need a pneumatic tank, then we'll have to put something in there. So how would we address that? What would be the best way? What's the minimum need for that emergency backup?
Okay,
And currently, these plans do show the, the demolition and the abandonment of that. There is one in there and abandoning everything. So based on what, Dave recommends, we'll either keep it in there if we abandon it, or we just pull the sheet out of the ground if we decide to keep portions of it.
One more question, like.
yes, sir.
The bidding schedule, what are we looking at?
Probably looking at a July bid.
July 1st, July 15th,
What's today's date?
15th?
Yeah, probably like the first week of July, put it out for bid. And you get your 2 weeks, you get to probably your board meeting. Do you have to get to your board meeting for approval? No, you already have approval to do the work, right? So
we don't have the approval to spend more than $1.6 million.
That's what would be the determining
So we're shooting
factor.
for the, I guess it'd be the August board meeting then, because we won't make the July. So it'd be because you have to bid it for 2 weeks. So
Doesn't sound like we're gonna do it this year.
We'll see, I mean, it all depends on, really, it only depends on the.
The school.
On the school. I mean, we can still do all this other work and the stuff in the back, it's just the driveway right there that's really a concern, that's the only thing that matters, and if we can work that out with them, work out a schedule. And
But we have to do it during the summer.
They'll work with us, I mean, I've talked to them about that already, I've talked to Tony and Tim about it, so they'll work with us.
All right, so right now, are we going to abandon or not abandon? Or can we make that decision after you guys get some information?
We'll provide you information and then you
Okay.
can decide what you
And
want.
right now, we're not planning on spending of those monies that are budgeted for 2016 on fixing anything in there.
Unless it breaks and we have to have it,
Correct,
we're
but
not
these are,
spending money in there.
this is
Yeah.
maintenance or whatever you would call it. Okay. Mickelson Well House repairs and funding. That's a touchy subject because I have an opinion.
Well, let's hear Jack's opinion.
I think you ought to tear that well house down before it falls on somebody.
We're all on the same page.
It's,
I mean, we are.
it's
It's scary.
It's a scary sight to see it, and I can see that somebody's already cut pipes and stuff because the building shifts and,
We've had to cut pipe to relieve stress, we cut the hole, we cut around the pump bases in the floor to relieve stress around the pump bases. We had to relieve some pipe that was attached to the hydropneumatic tank because of the stresses, so there's a lot of stress in that building.
yeah.
I mean, that site was intended to be rehabbed 10 years ago, but because of the economy, that project didn't move forward. So I'm not sure what today's costs are, but it would be how do you want to fund that now and how would you fund it to do that?
Well, we have some funding that we've allocated and budgeted for 2015 and 16 that we haven't spent. And we plan on not spending unless something happens right now. Do we have a cost of what it would cost to make those wells work in the summer and tear that building down and get all that junk out of there?
You're talking about the rehab of the building the plans that were submitted. I don't know what that costs.
The
Jim would
roll-
have that.
The roll, the original bond back from 2007 had it estimated at $300,000 for the demolition and reconstruction. 300,000 back in 2007, so.
To reconstruct the building or reconstruct the wells to be in a functioning manner?
There will be no building.
To remove the building and do the submersible wells and everything the way that,
Move the controls into the generator building,
Yeah,
upgrade the
and that's
electrical.
not gonna work. Based on what I looked at, I take issues with the electrical design of what they have. Just because the generator looks too small, the building's too small, there's not 30 inches of clearance for electrical safety that's required by code. If we put in the transfer switches, like additional transfer switches and VFDs in that little room with the generator, it gets mighty tight in there as far as, the electrical safety says you have to have 3 feet out from a control panel so people don't get electrocuted. You know what I'm getting at? Like, it's pretty, and then the horsepower or the kilowatts on that generator is too small to run a the 100 horse and the 25 that were originally, the plans I saw was from 2009, I think, which is probably what got developed after the initial thing. It doesn't look like that's good. The service medicine's not good. That's why this, I'm here today is because of everybody was questioning why it was so expensive to try to just get the one well back or to put in a 100 horsepower submersible, just the one, is because of there's a lot of, it's so old that even the Edison transformer, the building's not only going, but the Edison transformer's going in the swamp too.
Right.
And it's too small. My guess is it's too small. I can't tell. It's really small from a normal size underground, and it's so old that there's no numbers on it. And then Edison couldn't even find it. I've been, working with their engineering. They don't even have a record of that address, so they can't find. So I've got their engineering people working on trying to find it. So I just put in I assume we're going to have to probably move the transformer and move the service, put in a brand new foundation for a pad for the transformer, and a new upgraded service to 400 amps. And then because the building's falling in, even to do the retrofit, I want to just build the service on a rack that's separate from the building, so the building later can be just bulldozed. That's what I originally started with.
Yes, Bill.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need a redesign. And who's gonna do it?
That would be in my office.
Okay.
You saying that the generator building that's out there, you don't think that would suffice either? You think that would need to come down?
Design so we get a price.
I don't think the generator's big enough either, so if you put a bigger generator, it's going to get tighter. I mean, there might be a way to jam it all in there, but it's not.
Is the generator large enough to just run the one large well and not both wells? With
The
the large
60
one,
horse.
the 100,
So,
if we replace,
Okay.
because it's gonna be upgraded.
right. So you could probably run the submersible, I have to go back and look at it, but I have all the information there, but I think it was 150 kilowatts.
And I think if there's a power outage, we wouldn't need to run both wells.
Oh, it's a 100 kilowatt on-site generator and a 100 horsepower motor. I mean, it's 800, roughly speaking, we always round up to 800 watts per horsepower, and that's really not enough to get it running. It's going to stall the generator, and you're running the risk of starting a fire and overheating the wires and stuff like that.
Yes.
Because it's going to bog down and not
So you
run.
say-
Then we're going to blow up our VFDs for being 100 volt. It runs a whole lot of problems of.
How much horsepower, voltage and horsepower, how is that?
It's 480 volts.
No, just what you said in general, just in what number
Oh,
you're
okay.
using?
Yeah, horsepower is 753 or whatever watts per horsepower. And so normally for electrical stuff, because of losses and everything in the wire and everything, that rule of thumb is about 800 watts per horsepower. As far as just a rough, for like doing calculations in your head, it's a lot easier. And so we're at 100 horsepower with 100 kilowatt. It doesn't look good. A lot of what happens with, this is historically from what I've seen, the small wells are always designed to do the subdivision, and the big well is the fire protection well originally. And then what happens is, as time goes on, water consumption goes through the roof, and then now we're running everything, right? We run all the wells, every day, in the summertime. So that's a part. So everything's sized to run the small pump and just barely do the big one when you need it. As far as engineering it, too tight for the size. So I think we need a new generator, and somebody can figure out the size and the clamps, but my guess is the building's going to be too small. The
This
generator's
this is like we need to punt and go back to the first yard line. The building costs I know are, that's under what it would probably cost you to do today. Secondly, we're finding out more information that the generator's not powerful enough, nor could you put the transfer switches and stuff inside the generator building because of code violation. Your code says 36 inches away from the front of the panel. So if you can't do that, we need a building.
Yeah, because we're talking pump controls and 2 VFDs and a transfer switch. So unless, the only other option would be to put things on the outside of the building, which opens it up to the kids, or whatever in the neighborhood stuff.
Is this going to be part of the system, or is it going to be a backup? Are we putting it in line for?
Granger Road the Granger Road water treatment plant was designed to have Nicholson Shores pumped into it.
Grange?
This is
Granger's
Granger
Dunlop.
right here.
Dunlop
Granger
Road.
Dunlop.
Dunlap, yeah.
I'm still going back to the original design, it was always called Granger
Way
Roads.
up to
It's
Granger.
part of the system. But
Yeah.
my understanding is that it's only needed in the summertime, that it
Yeah.
actually gets shut down in the
We
winter.
shut it,
Right.
we do shut it down in the
We
winter.
put those wells out of service in the winter.
So based on the timing of everything, we might be out of luck for this summer with that one well, correct?
Yes.
I think we've kind of thought that.
Is that well running right now?
We have one of the two wells running, the one that has failed is out of the ground, it's an open hole.
And it's the large well.
Yes.
That's the 1,000
800,
or 800?
The
yes.
other one's a 210 or something.
And being smaller, because we've increased going into the Dunlop treatment plant, the head's higher, so we've lost capacity out of those pumps. So the pump that was rated at 200 is now 140,
Wow.
coming up to, because we've got so much more head on top of it.
Well, what's our pleasure? Drop back 5 and punt, start all over?
Is there any way to jerry rig this for just temporarily?
One
for
more
a few
season?
years?
He's asking, what we talked about before, put in, replace the
60,
existing one
yeah.
with a submersible 60, wire it, use it, and then later on, when you rehab the site, then you would take that pump and use it, see if you can use it as a spare pump for other sites, if possible.
Mechanically, we could do that.
Electrically, we can as long as the electrical inspector lets it be considered temporary. Because, you know, all the electrical code gets grandfathered. As soon as I start messing with something, I'm supposed to upgrade the entire building. You know, and I left some of it out in my original pricing because I didn't want to replace all the receptacles and the heaters and stuff. We're gonna bulldoze it, you know, but, so there's a little bit of
I guess
finagling going on there, but I think it's not a safety issue, you know.
the thought is, I mean, if you're going to upgrade the site, are you gonna move forward with doing that? In which case, you know, we'll have to look at, depending on demands this summer, you have to look at some odd even or something if it came to that, because you're losing quite a bit of capacity from that well. If you're going to not do anything with the site for several more years, then I would say replace that. Try to see if we can replace it with the same size. But if you're gonna move forward and do something within the next year, then we'll see what how we
I'm
get
just
through
worried
this
about the
summer.
funding.
Well, exactly, you know, I don't wanna spend the money and buy a 60 horsepower pump when you need 100. If you need 100, you need a building, you need a transfer, you need safety away from the panels, that you need a larger generator. You're looking at probably 3 times the amount of money than what we what we got back in 2009.
I don't know if it'd be that much, but, because I mean, they did have all these wells and the demolition of the building. The only thing that's different is maybe the building itself.
The building that the generator
That the
in,
generator sits in, yeah.
plus the
They
generator.
were planning on keeping that, or it sounds like that may need to come down now. But to say it might be double the cost, I think that might be fair to say.
Okay,
What if we, I mean, if we did do a temporary fix on that, is that something that we could do quickly in order to get this well and back in service for this year, or are we gonna,
If you were to look
or are
at-
we gonna be
if
2
you
months
could-
down the road
if you
anyway,
could-
and we don't need it because we only need it for summertime anyhow?
I'd have to check with the supplier, but I would venture that we could get a pump within 4 weeks.
So if there's a month, so you're already
Then you gotta
Yeah.
install it,
July
wire it.
now, and then you gotta install
Sampling
it.
and wiring.
So you're probably looking at August, best case scenario, before
Yes.
it would be in operation. Kind of past your timeline anyway.
So if the well does go out, you're drawing off your
Right.
Dunlop?
They're all
Everything-
pumping anyway, that's just, we lost that capacity. We have treatment capacity for those wells, we're not utilizing it, it's that much more water, gallons per minute that we don't have when we need it. So depending on how the demands are, so far we've been all right, but you watch both towers drop just like that in the mornings. You know, 'cause everybody likes to
It drops
sprinkle.
really heavy in the morning. We haven't hit the areas back where Red Barn used to get down to the 10-foot range back in those days, but we're
At 20 now.
we're getting,
Done 20.
it's dropping, but it's not to the area that we were at before when I was calling you saying, Bill, we gotta call the fire department. We're not hitting that anymore.
And you just don't know what the weather's gonna do.
No, no.
You know, but if it were, then, I mean, if we didn't do anything and the demands increased more than what they are and we had trouble maintaining, then you would have to look at some sprinkling restrictions, whether it be odd even. You know, I did put in the water report to not sprinkle from 5 to 9 a.m., 5 to 9 p.m., those high domestic periods anyway. The morning is is the highest time where most people like to sprinkle. If we could get them off, we could shave that peak down.
Yeah.
It's easier to maintain then.
So
So
right
maybe
now,
education on your website or however you reach out to your residents on, hey, don't sprinkle from 5 to 9 in the morning in particular.
Could you put a note on the water bill?
I'm not sure when they're due, when they go out again,
Okay.
because they're quarterly bills, so if they've just mailed them, it won't come out in time for summer either. I'll have to look.
We could go in May.
So, yeah, so we've missed that one. I mean, it's all
Yes.
weather dependent and how people use their water.
we don't want them using too much now because there is only one well working in there.
That's correct.
I mean, we still have 3 Oxford Woods, we still have the
Right.
2 at Dunlop Road, the small one at Mickelson, and we have 2 Oxford Oaks backup wells,
The
so.
the largest capacity for storage is in the North District. The largest capacity for water to be made is in the North District. All of your consumption's in the South District. We've made provisions to put the PRB in the Dunlop plant, sends water south. We have the
Waterstone.
Waterstone booster station, we've reversed that PRB and we send water south. We've got the ability, we can increase that so we can get more water out of the Northern District to supplement the south. We don't generally have issues in the north end. We've got 1 million gallons of water in the air with a large ability to produce water.
Just don't pull my well dry.
That hasn't yet, it's another normal.
Well, what's our pleasure? Do we want to revisit the cost of this well house abandonment, or do we want to look at the cost to shore it up? I know Bill mentioned one time to ram some screw jacks in there and hold it up, but that's like Band-Aid on cancer,
Or lipstick on a pig.
pretty much.
I think we wouldn't like to see that happen. We'd like to see it move forward with the rehab, and, I mean, that's the ultimate, that's what you want to do.
Well, I would like
I
that too,
realize
I
the
just-
cost is.
I would like to be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Yeah, the
But
big,
one option too that might help with some of the money is to get, I don't know if that generator can be utilized somewhere else, one that's there, but take that generator out, turn the building into the controls and everything, and buy an outdoor generator. You know, that way you don't have to worry about the generator being in the way of anything.
Can
And
the-
salvage the building,
Can the generator
so we
be
can fit
a,
everything.
Salvage that building?
The little generator building,
Oh,
sorry, not the well house,
the little
The generator building
Yeah.
seems to be holding up
no.
okay.
Yeah.
but see,
That's-
the point is, if you need a bigger generator, it won't fit in that little house.
Exactly.
So that'll have to come down too.
Well, so it's gonna have to get an outdoor generator that's, rated for outside, and they have all the new ones require this sound deadening, all that, they're real quiet.
Right.
You could put that next to the existing generator building and turn the small little building into the controls,
Oh,
right? And all
yes,
that
yes.
Edison service, so then you don't have, that would save a lot of space and construction. You basically just have to build a foundation for the generator.
Right.
What size
You
would
know,
that be?
I have to look again, because
Oh, we could just put a pad
about
on.
200 kilowatts. It's about double the size it is now. Oh, but it's not that,
The pad size.
about the size of the generator, a little bit
I
smaller.
was teasing
generator.
about just no footing, just put a floating
Yeah,
pad.
well, we already have one of those already. I don't- It's just not hold up so well. But I'm guessing it's probably like maybe 8 by 12, something like that. It's pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation, Engineer Sharp?
My recommendation would be to move forward with the master plan that was originally planned for in your previous bond. I mean, obviously that's needed, they didn't just come up with this out of the blue,
No, but I mean,
no.
can we put it, because of the money, can we put it off
Could you do parts? Could you, if you were to look at an outdoor
Phase.
generator, could you not buy the generator in that portion and do that at a later date, but do the rest and just not have wells if you lose power?
Yeah,
For
currently we
a
could,
few years.
well, and I have a portable generator that we could use.
So we could use
that will
a-
supply the 100 horsepower, that we can do, because we do that all the time at the other well houses. But to do both, we'd be pushing it, you know, the other ones, even the new ones, only 25 horsepower, so that the output's not that much. So it might make more sense to just pull the old generator out of there and put submersibles in, and then we can put the electrical in the old generator building, worry about the new generator and all the other stuff later. If that
So the
saves money.
submersibles in the current location or per
Well, whatever is
new
the,
submersibles?
Whatever.
The intent all along was to reuse the wells.
Okay,
Rehab the wells, put new submersibles in the hole,
right.
and then run all the controls over to the generator building. That was the original intent.
Would it make sense to have Jim go ahead and do the design? We can do that now.
It sounds like
Yes.
he's got to work with a few people,
and
get the design in order to get a cost.
But I mean, do the proper design for what, you know, we want to end up with, and then come up with a way to do it in phases.
Yeah, we could do that because it's, you know, from the sounds of it, we're not gonna be able to get anything to help us out this year, this summer. So we're not under the gun to get it done. So we can, you know, work on it over the next couple months and put a plan together and start developing costs for it and see if we can phase it so that we're ready to go, you know, for next year, I guess, for next summer, I guess.
Right. Well, we need to know how much money
Yep.
for the recommended fix of that, including the outside generator and the inside controls
It's just
and
the
the new wells
plates,
or new
shifting
pumps.
underground with the building.
Maybe you and Matt could get together,
The wells
and
themselves.
discuss
Okay.
the needs regarding the generator and the electrical and that, and then
Yeah,
look at the options of phasing it and or the cost of doing it all at once and
Sure.
see what it would be in the time frame.
Okay.
So we'll do that and I'll get back to you with some costs then. Because I don't, doesn't sound like we're gonna be able to do much
This year.
this year.
And the cost will include the design and your services.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that.
So rough order of magnitude on the generator, we just did 150 kilowatts at Plum Creek. That ran us about 117,000. So,
well, it's all the new, it depends on whether it's diesel or natural gas too. I don't remember what that's
That's
natural
natural
gas,
gas.
right? So
Yep.
if the main's good enough, we might be okay. Cause sometimes part of it is the new exhaust emission stuff that EPA's implemented in the last few years and the sound stuff there's a lot of new requirements for
How big-
generators. It's made them a
How
lot
big
more
was that
expensive.
generator? 100.
150 kilowatts.
Yeah.
And we
That's about
had,
what we need for
Right.
here.
we had a slight issue on the natural gas supply line that cost us $11,000. So,
They had to
a
bring
little
in a
change
larger
order.
size.
Well, we have plenty of gas here. Literally.
Speak for yourself. All right, so Jim, we can't authorize Jim to do this.
He can come up with a price.
I
and-
can work with Matt for now to come up to develop the cost.
Okay?
And there's some options that you wanna we can make the control so that it'll disable the 25 horse and just run the 100. You don't have to bring the size down a little for what its added value is in emergency. Or we can even, normally we have the generator with automatic transfer switch, and then we still put in a manual transfer switch, so, because the generators always have to get serviced eventually. Then you have I can back up the trailer and run it off of our portable. We just did our booster station in Pontiac, we split it, so it has actually two manual transfer switches, one to run one building, one to run the other. So
Right.
we, in theory, in the worst case, I could pull two in there and the 25 would run on a manual. Like if it was August and we had the issues with the generator, the on-site one, and that's, say $5,000 more to have that safety.
We can talk more about the
Yeah.
details
Okay.
there and get back to the committee on some pricing and costs about that.
All right. On to 6C, Tullamore Estates water main discussion.
So you or me?
That's you.
That would be you.
me.
6C.
Oh, sorry, I just got the little one. So as part of the looping of the system, you know, once we put the Lake Villa water main in, we'll have it to the school. And then Tullamore has been into the township a couple of times to talk about, you know, resurrecting that project, at which time they would then be, they would be required to put the 16-inch in and loop it back, basically loop the system from the school back down to M24. They are wondering, they being Tullamore,
Okay.
about the looping. So for example, they could go to M24 and they could run this project through Tullamore right here to this point. And that's what they would need to put in for their development, so why should they pay for this piece of water main? Or vice versa, if the water is here at the middle school, they can put in this portion of water main, which would be the 16-inch. They have water, and then they don't need this piece that connects back out to 24. So they are looking, they're asking if there would be any consideration for cost sharing on that portion of the water main, and whether or not the township is going to require that to occur, the full looping of the system. In my opinion, the township should require them to complete the loop, to come from M24 all the way through their development and up to the middle school.
What do you, just a stab in the dark, what do you think that would be? $3 million?
To do that portion of water main?
Yeah,
Um,
from M24.
The
to our
M24
stuff.
portion, that's gonna be the expensive, because you're gonna have to bore underneath that roadway and run it down Drainer Road there. So, I mean, it's very similar in length, probably not quite in what we're putting in, but because of the bore underneath 24, you're probably still looking at $1.5 million to $2 million, I would say. You know, to put all of this, this is easy digging for them, because this is just undisturbed ground.
Right.
So this portion won't be as expensive, but this portion right there, you know, so that's just a ballpark. I mean, I haven't done any estimates on it, but I'm just saying that's, you know, $1.5 million or more. So that's just something, I don't know if there's any action required, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, and.
They've mentioned it to me too.
Right, so we just kind of wanted to throw it out there. Like I say, from an engineering point of view, we certainly want to complete that loop.
Yes.
You know, to take it from the school and end it at Drainer and not have this extra 600 or 700 feet, it kind of defeats the purpose. And at that point, who's going to pay for this little portion? Because I don't think...
There's no users, so.
Right. So the township's going to end up paying for that cost anyway, to do that at some point in the future. I think that you make them loop it, and you know, how the cost falls in. Is it part of doing development? Is that the cost of doing business in the township? You're just going to have to pay for it? Too bad. Figure it out yourself, add it into your lots. A lot of communities do that. You know, where they're just like, well, that's your choice. If you don't want to loop it, then you don't have to develop. But, you know, in a way, it does help the township, because if this doesn't develop, then eventually the township's going to want to loop the system and have to pay for it all. So they are, in a sense, helping us out for a portion of it.
They're gonna bring it under 24, down Drainer, and then head north into their sub, right? Into this side.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 1 though is going to be here, so they're gonna have to get water, this 40 acres.
That's phase 1.
Yes.
Well, they haven't approached us with that yet, but that was one of the, these are just the old plans, you know, that had the approved water main shown on it. And they do have an area south down here, which there's some hurdles for them to get through as far as not being in the water and sewer district. I think rezoning is another one that they would need.
I think that is part of the water sewer district.
Is that part of the sewer district?
Well, my concern
think it
is, if we have agreed to an old plan that we're gonna bring water off 24 into the subdivision, it gets us that much more close to a looping system. But is it their job to loop the system?
In all fairness to them, and
That's
us.
my question.
If you're the developer, what would you do? That's a question you have to ask. What would your position be? And for the township, what's our position?
It's something I'd like to think about.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't want to make a decision here.
Oh, yeah, and before, if it did come up, we'd have to make a recommendation to the board on what we're gonna do, or what we feel is the right thing to do.
Jim, this plan was okay 10 years ago.
Correct.
That also included the 40 acres to the south. So I'm pretty sure that's in the water sewer district.
Is it inclusive of the 40 on the south? Yes.
Yes, because the whole
Yeah,
plan,
yeah.
There's that plan right
the
there.
whole plan was approved through a consent judgment with them. The only thing that stopped it was the economy. And
Right.
it's been so long that this went away.
This is the,
Yes.
you probably can't
That's the
see that, I know the
south
people on
side
the
of
camera
Granite.
can't see it. But the green here, would be out to M24. This was all gonna be 16-inch water main running through their development and stubbing out at the property, kind of at
Crossroads.
At which point it would then be taken to the north,
Well,
or however it was gonna go
our
through.
plan is to bring it down to that property line and keep it on the property line anyway. They would be bringing it to their property line. So that would solve that. Just have to stop and think for a minute. Okay. Don't lose the... All right, we'll beat that one up as that gets closer. New business, other water system issues, 7AI, Dunlap Road storage tanks.
Actually, the
Filter
the
vessels.
filter vessels.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, they're the treatment filter vessels.
Presently, filter vessel number 4 has a leak in it, and it is out of service.
Takata.
Takata?
How old are those?
Not the count, they do airbags.
I keep calling it Takata. I know it was one of them Japanese names.
I still blame it on Spiz.
How old are those?
10 years.
10 years, I think, and these vessels have been in service 8. They were built at the same time as the Oxford Woods were built.
Is there no warranty or guarantee or?
We have Tonka coming in from Minnesota on Monday morning. They will be here to evaluate, do some testing of the metal. They're gonna evaluate, they're gonna do some ultrasonic testing for metal thickness. There were two different tank manufacturers built the tanks. One company did the Oxford Woods, which are perfect, and you have the other group from Granger that did the Dunlop Road vessels, and they're struggling. It's not only one vessel. We are questioning areas of all 4.
We're looking at a pair
Alright.
of weld fails.
Let me go back to my original question. Is this something that may be covered under warranty, or is there no warranty
I would leave that to Drew.
on these
No,
vessels?
we currently don't have a warranty, and what we're trying to address at this point is how do we address the cost of repairs? So initially, Tonka came
You
out
showed me that.
while they were on site and said, well, the typical life of these tanks would be 20 years, okay?
That's-
So why don't we prorate the cost of repairs based on that? So there's some negotiations that are gonna occur when it comes down to the actual repairs. Now, what we're trying to evaluate with the ultrasonic testing then at this point is what is the actual scope of repairs.
How
So
long before these things blow up? I mean, no one knows what the weld,
We just don't know. And until we can do the evaluation with ultrasonic testing, we don't know what the condition of the rest of the welds are.
and they're doing this at no charge to you guys?
That is correct.
So that's always implied, that's good.
12 was
So
they
do
were
they have
trying
to-
to charge us for it, so.
Yeah.
But Tim told them they will come out at no charge.
And they'll be out Monday morning. We anticipate noonish, they're gonna come flying.
Now, do they have to drain the tanks? You
No.
take the medium out?
Not to do what we're doing now. The original thought was they would have wanted the media removed, go inside of the vessels to get inside to take a look at it. That was under the original, just a visual inspection. Now we're gonna do some different testing, and we're gonna start with the ultrasonic. If we had to remove the media, now the costs start rising real fast. And then our position was who's paying for it, and we were pushing it to them, and they were kind of wanting to say, well, we'll split a cost. So that's still up in the air, and that's why we're gonna do the ultrasonic first to find out where we're at.
Is the media inside the vessels, do they get changed frequently or at all?
The media has roughly about a 15 to 20 year life.
And that's when you would replace
It
the
would
whole
need to be
vessel?
replaced. You would need to replace all of the media in the vessel. When you went inside the vessel, then you'd also have nozzles and air distributors. You'd have some other work to do.
Right,
In a rough estimate of media replacement with the other work that needs to go on inside is roughly $60,000 for a media replacement.
Per
Per
vessel.
Per
vessel,
vessel.
times 4.
times 4.
There's another $250,000 from the cemetery fund.
No, from the safety path fund.
So that's,
I beat him, didn't I? I got him.
but some of this repair, there's a whole lot into it. The tanks are ASME certified tanks.
Yes,
The discussion going on and to bring in a certified ASME repair shop was about $5,000 on top of the 60 to do the work. And then the discussion is, my question was, what is ASME certification? Well, it was just a process of building the tanks. Jim probably could speak, or Drew could probably speak a little bit more, but that's my understanding. They followed the certain guidelines to construct them. If the ASME certification is no longer going to be required, and they can get somebody to come in that is a qualified welder to weld a piece of metal across the truck, seal it off and be done with it, we can get another X amount of time. But those are all roads that need to be crossed after we figure out,
Who's paying?
well, who's paying and what needs to be
Well,
done.
yeah, it'll
We're gonna
have to
find
be done regardless.
those tanks are under pressure.
Yes, sir.
What kind of pressure?
That varies anywhere from 0 to 80 psi during a backwash or higher, maybe about 90 psi.
I think it
So-
blows off at 100, right?
The relief valve goes at 100.
This is a ticking,
Yes,
Well, it's
sir.
critical, those
Yes.
treatment vessels are
That's where
critical to
I'm
your
getting
water
at right
system,
now,
so I
is
mean,
you're-
regardless, they're
you're,
critical.
you're gonna find out Monday if the welds are bad, or if a weld was forgotten, or if a weld wasn't done right through the ultrasonic testing.
Yes, sir.
What's more important, Mickelson or this?
This,
There's not even a question.
This.
This.
because you can't run Mickelson without these. This
And
This is
Mickelson
the
has to be
purification.
treated,
your arsenic levels in the water dictates what you're gonna do.
So,
you have to have treatment.
Well, we're gonna look for some spreadsheets then,
I've been in the building, yeah.
yeah, to determine, we already have one coming for the cost of Mickelson. Now, this is dependent upon your ultrasonic testing on Monday, you said, right?
They'll be in Monday, they're gonna be in Monday through Thursday. It's gonna take them an entire week. They're gonna do all the vessels. They're gonna do all the welds in the vessel.
They x-ray it. Just like they did the pipeline. Yeah. Okay, well,
So we'll get a report back,
to be determined.
they'll be in next week and,
They'll be in next week, I'd venture, a week or two after they get some sort of report.
what's that?
Week or two after that, I imagine some sort of a report.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh, more good news.
more good news to follow. Okay, Crossroads for Youth Connection. We met with Crossroads, their engineer, they are bidding out for an engineer to figure out where they should hook up and the cost to them to hook up and what they want to do with the hookup. What discussion did we need to have on that other than waiting for them?
I don't know, when we were in here and they were talking about it, you know where the Crossroads property is, right?
Yes.
And I think the DEQ's wanting them
The
to hook up
DEQ's
to the municipal system. Yeah,
The DEQ's been on their butt, so the township has been, sent a letter to them, or sent a letter to Crossroads, kind of saying, hey, we're doing this municipal system or extension, at that point you would be allowed to connect into the system. So we had a discussion with them. One of the items that did come up though that was interesting, and credit Mr. Dunn for this, was what about setting some acreage aside on the Crossroads property for a future well house in that area? we've always known that we're gonna need one somewhere on that side of town, whether it be up on the Koenig property or whether it be,
Did they
Down
do
at the
any
crossroads.
aquifer evaluations, back in the early 2000s when they were looking at, when they found Dunlop Road site out in that area?
no,
So
I'm
we
not
don't
aware
know.
of that.
Yeah, I don't know what was
No.
done either.
The one that I saw included the Koenig property showing the flow of water and where it goes. And it included, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is Koenig here and the water was flowing this way in the aquifer, right? What I saw was all this area and what they talked about, the number of gallons or the flow rate and what's down
We
there.
talked about recharge and being prolific.
Yeah.
All those other words.
Yeah, they used a lot of words that I don't normally use, not because they're bad, it's just that I don't reinvigorate my aquifer with
High
rainwater.
transmissivity.
Only when I
breaks
So like
electric
we're,
capacity.
like we were just talking, there's a lot more demand on the south side and we don't have
You don't have,
anything on the south
you don't
side.
have
So
any storage and you have your least amount of production.
So this would be, something where we could get something over on that south side. If, like I was mentioning, I don't know if there's been any studies done, any aquifer analysis or anything in that area, we'd have to investigate that.
And Crossroads they're pretty willing to do almost anything right now.
Yeah, they're willing to work with the township
Yeah.
because they got the DEQ on their back right now. So, for them to set aside a couple,
I don't-
3 acres.
Yeah, I don't know what it would cost, who you'd use for your hydrogeo. It might be who you use for your wellhead protection. Is it Peerless? And they do hydrogeo to maybe to do a little testing out there to see if there is any possibility of putting a site out there.
Right.
How do we get that to be done, Bill?
Just takes money.
Makes sense to.
I mean, you are going to need another source.
Right,
Well, they need
And
storage.
so if that's a possibility, but you need to know whether, that's the only way you're gonna find out. You're gonna have to put in some test wells and do some testing out there to see. I mean, I think of Peerless, because they did the wellhead protection. I know they have a, hydrogeo group that
Yep.
can
Yeah.
do that. I don't, you
I
can go out
just-
for bid too and get others. There's plenty out there that do that work.
I would just rather have that bit of information in my quiver because when we ask them and give them or do the easement here and ask them for a couple acres, I'd hate to be off by this many feet to where the water really is and the good water flow is and have 3 acres up here in the Sierra. The aquifer could make a turn
We
there.
had one of those sites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just
But the other end is.
Oh, right here,
Yeah.
right here with the township hall and,
Right.
and the Granger Road well, they ended up flip-flopping.
Our site was supposed to be where this building was supposed to be overlooking the lake, but there wasn't enough water.
So you got the scenic view, Dave,
Yeah.
with no windows. Scenic view and no windows.
That's my concern, and why I'm asking about it. Bill brought up the good idea of getting them to donate a couple acres for the well site, but if we know where the well site should be, we at least know that much.
Yeah, I think
I wouldn't
maybe,
want them to give us 3 acres over here and have the water right there. That's what my point is.
yeah. I think that we should maybe dig through the
And a
the
geo,
archives. I don't know what you guys have around as far as when some of these other locations were analyzed.
Did Insight do a bunch of other work
If
around
they
through
did,
there?
if they did work there, maybe.
Duh.
we
I
don't
think
know.
Kurt was in charge. Weren't you the boss then?
I was the boss for contamination
Oh,
issues.
contamination.
And our office wasn't involved in all that. so I
Everybody's
don't-
going.
Well, I see this going on.
I didn't even work here.
Hold of that?
Yeah.
Maybe we can call it Stearns.
Curtis is older than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah, I do know, Shannon, they looked at several different locations, but I never had any reports or anything on that, so I don't know where they looked.
Their concentration was in the Waterstone area.
Was it?
So
So,
was it the north end, where they,
Up
up on the corner of,
on the, like,
Dunlop.
northeast, up in that
yep,
area.
up Dunlop and then 24. And then they moved from there down to right here. Didn't have enough and moved to down there and found it.
But, I mean, it
So there-
definitely would be worth investigating to see, but again, you'd have to talk to a hydrogeo person on what you need to look for. Maybe there
Oh, it's
are
a-
some existing well records that might give them an idea.
Well,
initially, they'd still have to sink some wells and do some testing.
Yeah,
Soil
but
bores
Crossroads
and
should have some records on their wells out there, right?
depending on how old the wells are.
Yeah.
Finding the
That might be
records are,
50 feet.
can be difficult, yeah. I don't know.
Contamination, flows like that.
Well, it's not quite as big as the TCE plume in Kalkaska, but
Well, anyway, it was just a comment that was made, and Crossroads has been in here, and we had some discussions with them. And that was just brought up, and so with the group here, I mean, to me, it makes sense.
Sure.
You know, to certainly invest, because we need something in the south and especially on the east side.
well, the input today verifies, like you say, we need something in the southeast. What we need to do is to determine the cost of a hydrogeo inspection in that area. If we wanted to do one, we at least should have the idea of what it's going to cost us. And then when they come to us with an easement, we would know where we need to have that 3 acres for the well house.
And possible treatment.
Yeah, it would have to have iron removal.
Yeah, we'd have to have the whole.
A ground storage tank or something? Yeah.
No, it could pump right in, because it would be it'd be looped with the red barn, so you could utilize that as the storage.
Yeah. Let me ask you, as
You're
far
gonna-
as
you're gonna
the
need more storage.
Lake Villa well house,
Yes, sir.
you know, the aquifer that's there, is that an issue with the pumps? Is that
That-
why the capacity didn't work out
that
quite
is-
like they thought, or is it the aquifer?
The aquifer isn't very good at all.
The aquifer, okay, well,
They have 4 wells to supply that development. So you don't get a lot of capacity
wasn't
out of any of the
Actually
wells.
3, right?
Well, we're down to
Functional,
3.
down to 3, but I mean, there are 4 wells put
Yeah.
in to supply, so
And those, I think there was
that would
another,
make me think off the top of
there
my
was
head.
another well that was abandoned out there, I believe. So that there was 5th
That was
well.
Oxford Manor, wasn't it, at the time?
I don't have an answer.
That was
to
a separate well.
and that's what I was getting at, if you think it's the aquifer that may not be able to produce
I don't,
the water that was proposed.
they
you
may
know.
not have gone deep enough to get it. They did what they
Right.
needed to do. It was privately owned trailer park. They drilled what they could drill to get some water and they were done.
How deep
Or-
are those?
We can wait for Koenig to develop to the north and have them put a well in.
I would think that on 2,000 acres, that they'd be able to find some place that has some water on it. But it's just a comment that you had brought up. It was a good comment.
Yeah, I think
let's-
so too.
If
I
we
mean,
can do it,
Well,
let's see what it
And
is.
the other good comment is we should determine what it would cost us to do a hydrogeo aquifer analysis in one of the 2 areas for future, just so we know, Bill, when somebody says, oh, that's a great idea, they're gonna give us 3 acres. Well, before we do that, we need to spend X number of dollars to do this study.
And Crossroads is pretty accommodating right now.
Right.
Very accommodating.
Okay?
So where are we gonna go with this?
Contact who? Pearl's Midwest or somebody give us a quote?
I mean,
Also,
there's several companies that do that type of work, so you just would have to, you basically.
Who's
own
your
cost.
company of choice, Connie?
Well, I just said Peerless because they were
They
the Township
do our
wellhead
monitoring,
protection
yeah.
program, and they're already involved with you, and if you're
Northern
happy
Pump
with
and
them,
Well.
you could get a
Yeah.
price, but you could get that same price, but their scope of work, and provide it to a couple others and see what their prices come back as to compare.
Okay?
Tell them what you want to do. You want to see if this site has any potential as a future water supply source for your
Our job
system.
is to determine what cost it would be to have that study done in those 2 areas and stop there. But we need to continue thinking about it moving forward for this loop system.
So one alternative to consider is some of your geotechnical consultants will be able to drop like a 3-inch well, perform slug testing at a relatively cheap price comparatively to performing pump tests full out. So, you know, you look at a CTI or an SME or a SOMAT, they're generally pretty cheap in the geotech world.
He's our expert.
There you go.
SME,
Where they came from.
they are a large engineering testing firm. They do compaction, they do water, they do a lot of stuff.
They do it all.
Okay, we don't have to do anything right now with that, but us doing some homework to be prepared. Okay, Pontiac Street emergency water main connection to the village water system.
Here's the map.
And again, this was brought up, I discussed this with Bill, years ago, about another emergency connection with the village. Right there on Pontiac Street, right by the library. As an emergency connection only. And with the design work that is being performed on Pontiac Street to repave it, it would seem that this may be a time where you would want to make that connection.
This is,
It's not a dire
oh, I got it
need.
all right here.
It would probably be a cost sharing between the township and the village, so we'd have to approach them. I just wanted to bring it up because we are doing the design work for that tri-party funding on Pontiac Street.
Okay, so we want this connection. Oh, that's to go past and all the way into the village, right?
Is there anything?
This is the line right here. This is the village. So this is township
the
right
village.
there, and that's village right there.
Oh,
So
okay,
our line ends there, and their line ends back here, or
okay,
maybe a little bit further back at that entrance to the apartments.
right. We just need to get from here to make a connection.
Correct, basically put a valve
Is
in.
that us wanting to do that or both of us wanting to
think-
do that?
I'd like to do a do-over, go back to this emergency connection.
Okay,
I think it's gonna benefit both people.
that's where I'm going with it.
That's why I wanted to jump back here.
You
Maybe
could-
not doing all the costs for the village, but it's gonna be mutually beneficial for both of us, because if we need water, we can always open the valve.
Instead of keeping it in the Lake Villa wells, if you had an interconnection and an agreement with them, so if you had a major main break, see how much you have an area,
That's-
could you feed
that's
through that
right. See?
interconnection, and you could get rid of all Lake Villa.
That's where I was going back. You have 3 connections. 2 of them here could feed Lake Villa should this break over here.
I don't know what their capacity of
Yeah,
their system
I don't
is.
either.
I don't know how much they can provide,
They claim that they've got plenty,
in their treatment as well.
yes.
And now we want to add this one over here, which would be the 3rd one. I mean, the cost sharing is
No, it's not. Soft water, you said?
I thought they softened their
They
water.
do, they have
oh, they
softies.
soften their
Well,
water.
then they're not putting any salt in, I'll tell you that.
They soften their
Oh, I
water.
saw them dump not too long ago over there.
My understanding is they
What
have,
they
they
go
have
with that?
softened, they soften.
They do.
The gas.
Your
chlorine
water
or
hard at
something?
home?
That's what they did for their removal.
Must be a valve close.
Yeah, you close
Maybe
your
you're getting it-
valve.
Yeah.
maybe you're getting it from the township.
That's because I've given them so much.
Yeah, they close your
Oh,
valve.
yeah.
I've
Anyway,
seen the salt dump not too.
no, you're right, that would make sense.
Then you wouldn't have to worry about Lake Villa, you could just
We could abandon it
utilize
and
that
get rid
in
of
the
it.
case of an emergency.
Emergency, you just open that valve. right
That's
there.
why I wanted to revisit it, because it's beneficial both ways.
We're all thinking on the same page. We have 3 precautionary units here. You have 2 here and 1 over on Pontiac Street. That's a 3rd. So
We already have one.
it would
Then you have one with
benefit
Lake Orion.
us. It would benefit us by protecting Lake Villa should anything break out there. Even in a loop system, if something broke down there, it's just advantageous to have these 3 hookups.
Where's the main end of the village, Jim?
Right about,
I believe it's right at the township slash.
that fire hydrant, there's a fire hydrant right out in front of the school there, isn't there? I'm trying to
It's
remember.
actually, there's one on the east side of the road, just north of the entrance into where's the apartment units. Oh, you can't see in there because it doesn't show Pontiac
So it's
Street.
not far on, yeah, on the north street.
But there's a hydrant right there.
Yeah, I'm trying to
It's not
remember
far
if
away. It can't be more than,
It's
can't be more than
past
50
Dennis's
feet.
house.
And then on these emergency connections, are you just looking at, pipe with a valve, locking valve on each side instead of a spool?
Help, we're out of water.
Yes, that would be,
yeah, we're not,
Yeah.
my understanding is that the township and the village, neither one of them want what's currently up at the,
thank you,
at First Street there.
yeah,
2 valves, 2 locks.
spool piece.
That is such a waste.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's back when we were battling over city line.
So we should get a cost estimate?
for the 3 connections.
And then we'll put it right on the rest of the wish list
Yeah.
and narrow it down to what we can.
And that one on Pontiac Street, again, I just brought it up because potentially we could be repaving that road.
Well, it's
The
good.
water main is obviously off the road, so we could probably do it later on.
I don't know where that hydrant is down here,
But-
but I know there's one there.
And it had been discussed before about an emergency connection,
It's
so.
been on the books.
Do we need these, do we need 5 emergency connections? That would give us 4 to the village, and then we're tied in with Lake Orion also, or Orion Township.
Just with somebody else.
So do we need 5 of them?
Well, yeah, right. Well, all it does is add integrity to the system, right, guys and gals? It's,
Yeah, you have,
It always does integrity by having those interconnections.
I mean, we've had to use them in other systems. Between Wixom and Commerce, and then we Waterford with
Yep.
Kego. And, I mean, there's been places where they've been used, so,
Mhm.
not often,
you don't want to use them.
right, but it's nice to have an option.
It's like I just put a whole house generator in there, it paid for itself, just one tank. It worked. Paid for itself. Okay, well, what do you think we ought to do? Get a cost estimate of these 3 emergency valves and,
I think we need to talk to the village.
But I think Jack's, do we want to get a cost first so we can present to, that'll probably be their first question is what's it gonna cost us?
What if we say we'll pay half? Rather than, what I said earlier, I take back about where they're gonna pay for the actual
Full
pump. Yeah. Rethinking it, if it's beneficial to both of us, maybe we could share.
I agree.
And is Pontiac Street one that you want to do at this time as well? Or do-
Again, I would want to talk to the village.
I
Talk
would-
to Don Brantley and their engineer.
Okay.
I'd seriously think about it, but
Is this one still going on, State Street? That connection?
Yes.
Right here, at Bay Point?
It's still gonna go?
That's
One
gonna be
there.
that's gonna be part of this.
one at Bay Point and one over here.
And one down here at the
And
bottom.
Oakwood.
What happens with this rest of here?
Talk to Don, and if there was the connection happens here and there's a break right there, then these 20 homes are just without water.
They're out.
But right now, the way that there's no loop at all, so if they get a break back
Right there?
here, right there, then this entire development, all of Oxford Lakes is without water. We don't have any other feed in there.
And so what they were going to do was, had their engineer design the water to come out to here, but they're worse off than we are. They don't have any money.
This line's already in, isn't it? Because it's feeding the school.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's no need to build another one, say right here.
Correct. It's in, but I don't know what size that is. I don't think it's tough to get the school's records. I don't think it's 8-inch all the way through, so as part of the project, we're gonna put in new main to the school's fence line and then reconnect in right there with a couple of valves.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll do some costs on that.
7B. Item I, 2016, 2017 WRC sewer charges. No one's,
Any of us could speak to that.
none of them.
We're all water.
We're on the water side
can.
here.
Well, I've had
Well,
sewer
you're
side,
sewer,
but
but
not
not-
not that
Yeah.
stuff.
In your packet, guys, Water and Sewer Committee,
Yes.
you'll see this dated May 23rd. On the bottom, it shows a 6% increase. The total annual charge to communities will increase 6%. And then if you go to the page 11, it will show that our monthly contribution is gonna go from 113,000 rounded to 117,000 rounded.
4% increase
Yes.
for your sewer bills for fiscal year 2016-17.
So,
It is what it is.
it is what it is, we have to raise the sewer rates.
We're doing good.
Well, who's gonna pay for it? People with septics?
Yes.
Now,
Well, you're getting more houses online too. One building.
Yeah, if you look at our most recent billing,
Here.
we bill 464, which actually went up to 468 with penalties on it. And we were billed roughly 468,000.
So it's a wash right now.
Well, to add to that though, the county retains $120,000 a year of that money. It goes back into the reserve funds back at the county.
For emergency maintenance.
Emergency maintenance, capital improvement reserve, and also major maintenance. So
But
if
they can't spend that money without
It's our money.
it's our money.
It's our money.
It's our money.
They're just holding a bank account for us.
They are for
The
situations
TNA,
like
Trust the
if Dave needs something done now, he has the ability to move it forward on our behalf.
Shut the guy up on the loading.
You're talking about the guys.
That guy with the sump pump,
Yeah, the sump pump.
I told the engineer to hammer, or the attorney to hammer. He's got.
Is he still pumping?
Yes, he is.
holy crap, that thing's, I've been here
Why don't we just go and
13
dig
and a
it
half
up?
years, it's been the same thing.
Plug it out.
Why don't we do that?
I can't answer that. With something needs to be done, I need to work on that station and I can't.
The attorney
We'll be using your
Oh, this
reserve funds
horse.
soon.
Fuck you did. Where's our attorney at?
Well, I've been in contact with him. I'll
Yes.
talk to him again.
Thank you.
This has been 2 months ago.
No, years.
It's been 15 years.
It was videotaped. I remember the videotape that went through the line showing the waters.
No, we talked about having it ending 2 months ago.
Yes, sir.
It's still not done. That's our fault.
You taking responsibility for this, Jeff?
I would, but I'm not the supervisor.
I'm not either.
Well, what I need is, I need verification from the contracted people that I have that are running my system, which I did get,
I will,
and as soon as I did,
Gave it to the
I gave it to the attorney.
And he's still pumping.
yes, sir.
And he's still pumping. But the attorney is taking him right to court. No more warnings.
They've got the video coming right on his lead as it's just chugging in.
Which one is this? Who's beeping?
It's the injector station.
So that's me.
That's you.
Yep.
We call it the passenger station.
So this will all go into the calculations of our operations of our sewer.
Including him pumping stuff in there.
Including him pumping stuff in there. There's probably legal fee, yep, legal fees right there. Legal fees on our account expense.
Yeah, and another thing that I just wanted to bring up, I track, Curtis gives me the bills that you guys receive on a monthly basis. So, just like Curtis loves to do, I have a spreadsheet that's put together.
Oh, no. Curtis Jr.
So I tracked all the billings and all the water usage
Yes.
back to 2008. And I show this, I have different forms here. But one thing that I thought was really interesting is since the whole treatment plant, the
Yeah,
Pontiac,
give me a call when you get a chance.
the Pontiac wastewater plant went online for this year, we've been paying, the last few years per MCF about $32, $31 an MCF as a yearly average on that. This year, when that thing came online, we jumped all the way up to $37 an MCF. That's an 18% increase. Which I just thought, I don't know what that means, it's just, now, for some reason, our, what's that?
It's not my thing to say anything, so I don't know, but
Not certain.
You know, our usage has gone down.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's
and our
because-
costs have gone up.
I don't know if that's because the meters are more accurate now. Maybe that we were being billed too much before and they've gone down, but our usage has gone down a good amount over the past, year and a half. But,
We can put you in, I mean, it would be Tim Prince and Raphael on that if you wanted to meet, to go, water, all the water stuff too.
Right.
and the the rates and the, you
All
know,
gonna-
I
all of
just,
it.
you know, was
and
under the
sewer.
impression that with
Bring the
this,
right people in and
with
meet
this
with you
Pontiac
guys.
treatment
Diversion.
plant, with this
We've got the
diversion, that it was
connections
gonna
now.
save us money in the long run.
It just opened up capacity and then to bill us more
Jack's
money.
question as far as.
And again, if it's
we're
because
overcharging or
maybe the
undercharging
meters
customers
are
'cause
reading
we
more
don't know.
accurately, so there is that less flow, obviously, that's gonna
So
make it
money's
go
flowing
up.
in other directions.
But, you know, I just thought it was something that was,
It's interesting.
you know, that in, where's the numbers?
That would have been the question for this morning.
That's more of a
Financial.
update on just what the operations and maintenance of the system and stuff. We don't get into a whole lot of financial stuff there, other than what the bonds are. Because overall, the dollar amount hasn't gone up that much. In 2014, we paid $1.86 million, and then in 2015, we're at $1.9 million. It went up about $400,000. But that seems to be fairly consistent with what's going on. It was only an increase of like 2% in terms of the overall billing, but I just thought it was unique.
You're
And
saying from 2008 till now, so we're talking 8 years, 7 years?
I have it going back to 2008. I'm not referencing those numbers right there.
It's an interesting follow-up though.
Yeah, just something.
It might reflect on the look back too. When there's a look back adjustment, maybe that'll be part of that calculation.
Right, your look back
To give us
adjustment
money
next year, you're
back.
gonna get like a correction of a couple $1,000 on each bill. Anyway, so just keep it in mind, and the big thing was that your rates are going up 12% next year for your sewer.
True up adjustment.
I want to go back to this illegal dumping of water. Is it in an easement where he's dumping this water?
No,
No.
it's coming from his house, he's putting it in, he's
Into
putting it into the
his
sewer.
clean-
He's
Into his
putting it
clean-
into his
clean
tap.
out.
Yes,
Thing outwards coming down his lead and into the sewer.
Since his house is 2 feet above the lake level, his sump runs all the time.
Yeah.
normal people would just kind of recircle it back into the lake.
Uh-huh.
Out into the sanitary sewer
And
system.
he's a master plumber too.
Yes.
I wonder how masterful he'd be jamming a potato in his tap.
Toot.
Well, that's terrible.
Our attorney is following up on it as we speak.
Good. 'Cause we've been wanting to work on those compressors in that station, and I can't take one on the service.
I have a call into him and I'll express, we need to do this fast.
What's this guy's name?
Jamie, I've got it in my office.
The energy consumption, everything is just,
He's running our pump station. 15 years.
yes, probably.
Okay. REU factor update.
Me? I mean, well, we had discussed it a while back about possibly updating the REUs. We did have a meeting at the WRC offices today. As I told you before, the WRC themselves are updating their REU assignment factors, and they're hopeful to have a draft of that out in a month. So at that point, we'll get a copy of it, and make any comments that we want to on it. But I'm sure they'll go through the process of ultimately adopting it, at which case the township can, will probably want to follow along and adopt that along with maybe some of the other use types that we've added, such as, we have a REU
Apartments.
1 for fire suppression, irrigations, those types of things.
Okay.
But they are working on it, should have something to us hopefully in a month.
All right. And then item C, Burton Katzman.
So we met with BK just before this meeting here. And as I mentioned, they're going to be pulling permits soon for their buildings. So there's going to be a little bit of an influx there. There's a sewer agreement, for sanitary sewer, that needs to be put in place. And that is because we are allowing them to take the sewage into one district temporarily. Ultimately, it gets redirected over to the
Grander Station.
no, it's not going to be pumped. It'll all be gravity, but it goes over to North Oxford Road that way.
Goes east.
So in the agreement, there's between their attorney and the township attorney and the developer and myself, we've come up to an agreement that we're all in agreement with the exception of two items. One is the timing of when this needs to occur, and the second one is the posting of monies to protect the township, and basically so that we can redirect the flow at some point in the future should the developer not elect to do that or not develop phase 2 or things get stalled, because we don't want this sewage going into the M24 district for a long period of time. So with regards to the timing, originally they wanted a time frame of 10 years before they had to redirect this flow of sewage. The township came back and said, no, we want this done in 3 years. They've adjusted it and said that they would like it for it now to be 8 years. So we're kind of in this back and forth
2 years.
situation.
We want to go to 2 years.
I can comment on this right now.
Okay,
When we met with them up front, we told them what we wanted. They knew what they were getting into, and I'm gonna stick by it. We want cash. I don't want a letter, you know, I want something that's liquid. But if they don't do it, we're gonna do it for them.
okay, well, let's talk about the timing first. We'll talk about the money in a second. Can we talk about the timing and just, do we want to stick to the 3 years? You know, their thoughts was that it's going to take them about 1.5 years to you know, get the buildings up and get the occupant, you know, start occupying the buildings and so forth. So basically by the time they kind of get people in there, it's going to be a couple years. They're going to have to turn around immediately and put the sewer in there. So they were looking for, there's other caveats in there too, and I can read it to you. Let me see, let me just find it real fast. So, basically, number one is if they start pulling building permits for phase 2, makes sense, obviously they have to put the sewer in at that point. 18 months from the time that the township notifies them that the M24 sewer line has reached 75% of its capacity. Right now we're only at like 30% of the capacity of that line. So the odds of us building along M24 in such a rapid rate that we're going to get to 75% could probably be several years down the road.
Several is, well, few is 3.
Right.
Several is 4.
And who knows? I mean, we could get some big developer in there. But basically, if that sewer gets to 75% capacity, then we notify Burton Katzman, and that starts the clock ticking where they need to start putting the sewer in the ground. And they have to have it completed within, I believe it says 18 months. And then the last one, item C, is the 8 years. So phase 1 triggers it, got to put the new sewer in, 75% capacity triggers it, or 8 years regardless. If they decide not to do phase 2 and the sewer on 24 never reaches 75% capacity, then 8 years from the time they pull their building permit for phase 1, they would be required to do that. And as far as the funding goes, like Bill said, we propose that they put either a bond or an irrevocable letter of credit up, which according to their financing is basically like putting cash. They might as well just, you know, give the township the $525,000 now and put the sewer in themselves. So they were wondering if the township would entertain a deed, because they're gonna do these lot splits, right? They're gonna split it up into 5 different parcels. Put a deed on the 13 acres on North Oxford Road in escrow. And that would be their security. The property on that 13 acres, because the school was just looking at purchasing it,
Don't go any farther.
don't say anything? Okay,
No, because that's not supposed to be so.
okay. Then,
You're
Let's say
leading up
in the-
into my speech.
okay,
They're-
okay, go ahead.
They're gonna give us something we're already gonna get in order to get what they want.
Say that again?
No. Here's my thinking. They're wanting to banter at a point in development where we've already had a deal.
I already had to deal with them.
We've already had a deal. It's 3 years, money in escrow, and that's it. I can see it now, and I'm gonna just throw this on the table. I can see this now. In 8 years, they go, you know what? We're all done. We don't wanna play no more. We're out. What have they lost? Nothing. They've garnered 8 years of rent and sales in their condos and everything that goes with that money-making proposition. And we're stuck with sewers that are at 75% in the village going down M24. Then we're gonna be the ones that have to put it up there on land that we may already own.
I'm gonna be billed and merciful.
Okay, Aaron, I like this one.
I'll go to 5 years. I hate doing that, but I want cash. I want cash put up. And if they don't like it, too bad.
How much cash?
$500,000, whatever the price was.
And we're putting Jim in the middle of this negotiations, which really isn't fair, but,
No, he just, because we had that meeting, I told him that I would, I'd bring it to the water and sewer committee and let you guys make, so you're not putting me in the middle.
We told them up front, before
Yes.
this project went on, what we're going to want. And now they get all this, they start moving dirt and coming to us like a bunch of kids,
yeah.
wanting us to give in. I'm not giving in. We had an agreement. We told them right up front.
We did.
So,
And I'm the messenger here, so I'm bringing it
That's
to
why I say
you.
it's not really fair for you to be the messenger in a negotiations like this, because the negotiations at first, I would not go 5 years. But the negotiations started with him and the building department and the water and sewer committee. They ought to come back to us with that kind of stuff and talk.
Pen died.
Yep, pen died after I was just gonna write something too. It's all right.
So would that be a general consensus then, since I've been working on the agreement with the attorney, that 5 years would be, but now I'm on your side. I mean, I'm not
I don't
working,
know what all the details are.
I'm not working for them, so
Also-
I could care less.
I was under the impression 3 years, irrevocable letter of credit. If you don't like it, have a nice day.
then I'll go with 3 years with these guys.
That's what I'm saying, you know, let them, we're gaining nothing. It's what they're doing is they're giving us what we want, then they're moving a little bit ahead, and then they come back and ask for a little more, they'll move a little more ahead, and all of a sudden they get what they want, and we're left holding the bag. I'm just giving you my feeling.
So I will indicate to them that we're staying firm on the 3 years with cash.
Yep.
Or performance, or a letter of credit.
From the committee.
If not, come see
And-
Bill the Merciful.
And if they want to pursue it any further, then they need to come
To the
to
township board.
township
I'm not
board.
interested in 13 acres. I'm not in real estate.
And I mentioned that to them.
Yeah, that stuff needs to be balanced so bad it's not funny.
It's on the side of a cliff.
Yeah,
That's fine.
It's like this.
yes, thank you, Joe.
Yep.
We're talking out loud, is all we're doing.
No,
No wonder they're
that's fine.
so generous, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah,
We
your
give this piece of
generosity
junk
is only as long as
property.
your shirt sleeve.
For
Yeah.
insurance.
Okay,
Okay.
committee comments.
None.
What-
None.
I have none.
I'll move to adjourn.
No, not yet. Engineer comments.
I have nothing further. I think I spoke enough today.
I'll move to
Okay.
adjourn.
Well, can we see if they have anything else they would like to bring in front of us, since they made the trip out, Bill?
My only question would be, do you still want us to look at costs to keep a well at Lakeville, or will you look at more the emergency connections and then let us know if you want us to spend time on looking at
I'm of the
costs?
opinion that you should give us a cost to maintain a well at Lake Villa. What that'll do is while we have that cost, we'll have the cost of emergency hookups. We could put it on the fulcrum and say, is it wise to spend $20,000 on hookups or $100,000 on a well maintenance program? Or vice versa. Fair enough?
Was there anything else we needed to provide? That's the only note that I have of providing stuff, so. You're gonna schedule a meeting to review the plans, but that's separate.
Yep.
What are we going to be doing about Mickelson? What's your
I
your
think
general?
Matt are going to
I'm
meet.
gonna work with Matt.
Okay,
You're gonna work with Matt
together
because
some-
just want to make
plan.
sure we got,
Yeah, they're gonna put
We're
together a
moving forward.
plan.
what we're learning is that the generator house is not big enough to sustain a generator. The generator is not big enough for that. The generator is probably gonna be bigger than the house, and it wouldn't be able to put all the control panels in with the old one. The old one's not big enough, so you're looking at buying a new one. Jim, you're
Don't forget about
D.
DTE, that's too small too. So that's
Okay.
gonna have to move. But yeah, just piling on.
Dave?
Is there anybody like notification Monday when Tonka comes in? Jim?
sure.
Bill?
Drew?
I'm good.
Camera person? All good? Now Bill.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Oh, it's your turn. Item number 9.
He's still going, yeah.
I'm not going
We're
to.
gonna keep this meeting going.
You gonna do it?
No, let's keep going.
I'll make a motion
What
to
time is
adjourn.
it?
Motion. Motion to extend.
Where's your extent?
No, I made a motion to end this.
All right, well, Andy, I can also.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're not gonna ask for any nays.